Okay, so we're here today with Siân. She's a librarian for history and archaeology in the Marshall Lewis Library, and we're going to ask her some questions about her job. Whenever you're ready.
First question. Why did you study a history degree and then become a librarian?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just did my history degree because I really enjoyed it at school, and I just wanted to do a degree that I would enjoy. So this was back in the day when course fees weren't quite so expensive, so maybe people thought about things in a bit of a different way. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do after my history degree, apart from I didn't want to be a history teacher or work in a museum. So I had various jobs and then got a job in a local public library as just kind of entry level, and realised that I really enjoyed that. And I really liked it because it was kind of the dual things of you're doing something which was helpful and performing a service, but you're also, it was kind of academically interesting as well. And then I realised I needed to do more qualifications to get kind of a better job in that, so that's why I became a librarian. But I think there are kind of cross skills between history and librarian work, in that you're sort of analysing sources and researching and things like that.
How does the Marshall Lewis Library work? Like, what do the people do, the processes that you follow, routines, that sort of thing? Like, very briefly.
Yeah. Well, we're basically here to support students in their studies by making sure they've got the resources that they need. So a lot of that is to do with book ordering and book processing. That takes up a big chunk of staff time. Obviously serving on the issue and inquiries desk for issuing books and answering queries, and kind of student and staff training in using the resources, and then we have other projects on the side and things like that.
Oh, like...
Yeah, well, what other projects have we...
If you can speak about it, of course.
In the past we've done some podcasts for the tours, we've got the Twitter and the Facebook and things like that. So,
that is interesting. What does exactly your job in particular consist of? Because you're assigned to the history and archaeology section, so I suppose it is different from what the people in the law section will do, or?
Yeah, so I work specifically with humanities and social science. So that involves kind of student training, and that's mainly quite busy at sort of Freshers' Week and around things like that. So student training on using the resources. I work with the tutors in the department for ordering their books, although other staff then do more of the kind of manual sort of day-to-day processing of the book orders. I do the classification, so where the books are going to go in the library when they arrive. I do things on the inquiries desk regularly, so but that can be kind of questions about anything in the library. And kind of working on the stock, so we try and make sure that we've got things that are relevant for students, so that can involve kind of looking at stock and seeing how much of certain things been taken out, so we need to kind of change what we've got or reduce the number of copies of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So you need to look over the books and check that some journals are more useful than others. And
I mean, we try and work closely with tutors as well, because they know what they're teaching. So it's kind of a partnership in that.
Oh, that's interesting. Didn't know that.
Do you think libraries are an important factor in the spread of knowledge and in particular history, or do you think they are falling into disuse?
Oh, a controversy.
It's very controversial.
It was going to come about at some point.
I mean, I think the world is changing, and so certainly like libraries in general. I have to think about this. Yeah, I mean, public libraries in the past were very important for people when you didn't have the internet, when people couldn't afford books, and books are so cheap now. So I think, the world has changed, but I think there will always be a place for people who are trained in librarian skills. I mean, librarians are meant to be kind of impartial and not have an agenda apart from helping people find the information that they need. And I don't think anyone else can really do that. You could have a company which provides you information, but they might be kind of biased towards a particular type of information. Yeah, I mean, I think the way we need to do that needs to change. So maybe people's need now is for kind of information searching skills, because there's so much information out there, and so it's just a kind of different way of doing it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, does that answer the question?
Yeah. Also, on top of that, do you think it has changed much, like how libraries were used when you started, and like your experience in here?
Yeah, I mean, I was a fresher 10 years ago, and I don't know. I mean, I guess the mobile web that's developed. So I mean, we had phones, but you couldn't really get the internet and things like that. It wasn't really used, and I think that's something that's developing quite a lot. Obviously, social media stuff has kind of developed. I mean, we had all the journal databases and things. But it's interesting. I mean, people say kind of all books like die out and will all be online, but we still get a huge amount of books each year, and that hasn't stopped. So yeah.
Well, this links with the next question. How do you think librarians adapt to the new media and technology in the world of information and communication?
These are really good questions.
Well, I suppose it's something you have to do. You cannot just say, no, I'm not going to deal with this.
Yeah, I think librarians in general are quite good at interacting with new social media. I mean, I'm on Twitter, and I follow lots of library and information people who are using Twitter and using other things to kind of help their own professional development and networking, but also kind of meet with their students or kind of spread ideas about ways they find good for helping students and things like that. Yeah, what was the question again? I've gone a bit off track.
Yeah, how do you think librarians can adapt to the new media? Because, for example, I remember when I was doing my work placement in the record office, we had similar, librarianship and archivism is not the same, but they share some issues with that. And I remember there was like this generalized fear towards the new media, and very few archivists actually wanted to do that sort of transition, and many of them didn't actually know how to adapt to it. So, for example, I remember one of the methods to do that sort of step forward was learning how to digitalize archives. Do you think perhaps having ebooks and online resources is a way of adapting to the new era, or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, ebooks are a bit of a funny one. We try and have ebooks wherever possible because of the benefits for students. So, there's no limit to the number of students who can access it all at one time, and it's not going to get lost or get damaged. But then we do find from student feedback that some students prefer to read a paper book. So you kind of got the two things going on there. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose it's kind of sometimes a question of authority, in that library staff and archive staff kind of want to think, well, we're the experts and we want to kind of keep control of things, and we don't want to kind of let it open to the public. So yeah, there's probably a lot of work to be done, but I think unless we engage with it, social media, then libraries will become irrelevant, which would be a shame, because I think we've got the skills that people still need.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
What would you say is the best part of your job, and on the other hand, the most challenging aspect of your job?
The best part of my job, I really like it when you help someone. So, like at the inquiries desk, and someone's got a question, it can be about anything, and you can help them find what they need. So I do really like that, and that's a really nice part of the job. I also quite like designing posters.
Oh.
So whenever we get to do a poster for Freshers Week or something, I quite like being able to do that. That's quite fun, but creative. The most challenging part, I think, really is that we've got really limited resources now due to the kind of course fee situation and the financial kind of burden that's placed on the university as a whole. We've had staff cut back, so we're trying to do the same thing with less staff, and
less
that
people.
makes everyone stressed. And things. So yeah.
Do you also find that you have, like, because you work in the customer service sort of sector, do you have like bad experiences in that thing? Like, does it happen? Do people get angry if the library doesn't work properly, or is it like just something that happens eventually and doesn't really count?
Yeah, I mean, you do get both students and academic staff.
Oh,
who get, I don't know who gets more angry. Yeah, I mean, you do get people who get annoyed with something that the library's done. I mean, and I think you can't ever get away from that. You're never, especially in anything customer service, you're never going to please everyone all the time. And sometimes it's not even to do with, you know, something else
what you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've also worked in a public library before I came here, and I find when I came here that the students were much more polite. Yeah, but I think, I mean, we always try and have a reason behind why we do things. So, I mean, sometimes people don't like that they can't talk in the silent study area, but we try and have a reason for that.
Yeah.
Or the fines, you know, there is a reason behind them. So I always try and explain the reason for, you know, things that we're saying you can't do. Or things like that.
That's fair enough. This is a fun question. We are now getting into more relaxed questions.
Okay.
Which one would you say is your favorite item in the library?
Oh.
Or if you can choose like a couple of them.
Okay. I really like the school resources area. There's nothing to do with history really, but I like some of the kids' books are really good, and we were just shelving in there this morning, and I found a book that I read when I was little. Very cute. Yeah, they do have really good stuff in there. It's really nice. Yeah, so it'd probably be. Yeah, school resources.
Yeah, we always comment on it, like how we, in our first year, we used to be in the third floor because, you know, history books, and then as the degree moved on, we started moving up there because it was just cheerier and prettier,
yeah.
And, you know, big desks to spread books around. Well, that's interesting. Do you think that area of the library is kind of, I mean, does it? Obviously, we have many teaching students in here, but is it like reasonable to have such a different area to like the rest of the library?
Yeah, I mean, they do have different things in there because they have resources that they can take into schools to do kind of practical work with children. Yeah, I mean, it is a big part of the courses at Winchester, and teaching students do make up quite a lot of the student proportions. So yeah, I think it's quite justified to have it. And anyone can borrow stuff from there.
That always does.
How do you feel about the technology use in the libraries?
As in self-service areas.
Self-service.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have self-service at the present time, and that's quite unusual for libraries. Yeah, I'm kind of in two minds about self-service in general in kind of society as a whole, and I think sometimes like when they have it in checkouts and things or in Smiths, and I think on the one hand, you know, it might mean someone's lost a job down the line because a machine is doing a job for someone, but then it does make it faster for customers. Yeah, and then I suppose it can be really useful. So if you think about like ATMs in banks, like how much of a faff would that be to have to go and queue up every time you wanted money? And now that's kind of become really a recognised part of society to use them. But I'm sure you know, some people maybe kind of felt bad at the time because they lost their jobs. I suppose public libraries, I'm not really a big fan of it because I think a lot of the reasons people go to public libraries is to have human interaction, like old people or people who are a bit marginalised in society, and they can't even chat to someone as they're reading their books. They're just like a machine. So I think it does have a place in public libraries, but I'd be a bit wary of taking out all the staff. Yeah, I mean, the argument for it is that if you have self-service, then staff can have more time to do other things to enrich the student experience, so other kind of projects and other things like that. But obviously we don't have it at the moment. So.
Okay. What do you think about it? Because Scott works in the library as well. So I was wondering, Because that was your question, so I was wondering what made you thought about it. Putting you in the spotlight now.
I don't know really, because as I work in a library, it's kind of, I think it's quite useful, but then I can see how it, it removes people from the equation. It makes machines more prominent in the library. But then I do get comments whenever I'm helping people on the self-service, who don't know what they're talking about, saying, I do wish we had the old desks and stamps back. And it's like, oh, because I did kind of grow up with that, and then having electronic stuff is it's different, but it's difficult to pick a side because both sides have quite good arguments.
That's true. I was wondering if that sort of self-service service can create any sort of security issues within a library, like people stealing books or books being renewed with no apparent reason or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, they would probably they would still have security tags in them, so they would probably still set the alarms off if someone didn't issue it and just kind of walked out. Yeah, I'm sure, because I'm sure you would get some more technical problems because it's people.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was always questioning, because obviously it has happened here that, I don't know, perhaps someone will take a book but the machine doesn't do it properly. You go out and it starts blipping. So there comes a nice librarian to help you and don't make you feel ashamed and embarrassed. But if you start putting machines in all that process, then for sure you will have. I think that will change the world of libraries, perhaps quite a lot, because then you will need many people working in the library that will have some sort of, technological skills and knowledge and that sort of stuff, just for the upkeep of
machines. I mean, I don't. You still got to have staff to help people use them, or to
obviously
put the books actually back on the shelf or something. So I don't.
I think it has its charm just having the desks. It's kind of like the right way to do it. This question kind of relates to things we've been speaking already. Do you think history is a good background for a career like librarianship or archives, things like that? And if so, why?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Especially for things like archives. I don't know much about archives, but when I was doing my library course, I knew quite a few people who were doing an archive course as well at Aberystwyth. Just a plug for Wales. And a lot of them has already done history or archaeology degrees, and I think if you've got that kind of passion for the subject, that's going to help you, because you're kind of working with documents from the past, and if you're kind of really interested in it, that'll make you enjoy the job more and make you better at the job. But I think I don't know anyone else in the library who's got a history degree, but I think it does help for librarianship, because you're kind of tuned into looking at sources and kind of evaluating how useful are they, and you're quite good at sifting through lots of information and kind of organising it and things like that, and that's kind of what librarianship's about. So, yes.
Would you say having a love for books is perhaps more important than having a love for academical knowledge to work in a library, or it can go either way?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't just love books, you've got to love people as well, and helping people interact with information, because kind of being a librarian involves interacting with people a lot. I mean, if you've got a kind of passion for a particular subject, that really helps, because then you're kind of tuned into helping students find information as well, and you're working in an academic environment. So.
Our last question. This is a question we ask in every single interview, and it's just our special question. You get to ask this one this time.
It's basically, if you had a time machine, what period would you go back to, or what year or event would you go back to?
You won't be able to interact with it. Just go there and kind of experience it yourself.
I don't know. I quite like the benefits of the NHS that we have today. Things like central heating, I quite enjoy that. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't have liked to live in the past in terms of like creature comforts. But apart from that, I really like the Victorian age. I think that would be a really interesting age to kind of go back and see what that was really like. Yeah, but maybe with modern medicine.
Is there any particular thing you would like to see how it was done there? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I think it was just quite an exciting time, as they were kind of developing things like the empire was developing. Although that's got some negative connotations as well, it must have been quite exciting for people in Britain to kind of, they had more opportunities and the railways were developing and kind of the Industrial Revolution and things like that. I think would have been quite an exciting time.
well, do you have any last words before we finish the interview? Perhaps a message to the audience of the blog about libraries and librarianship?
I don't know, it's quite a difficult one. No, I don't think so. I loved my history degree, and I think, yeah, I think it's the right choice of degree course out of all the subjects we could do. Choose history, yeah, because although you might not become a history teacher or do something like specifically history related, it does give you skills which are really useful in lots of other jobs. So yes, keep going with it.
Well, that was it for today. See you next time.